Thank you very much for joining us once again on PM Express. You must have heard last week the unprecedented step taken by majority MPs going public with demands that the president sack his finance minister and the minister of state at the finance ministry because they believe both of them are responsible for our current economic crisis. Negotiations followed thereafter with the president, and then a U-turn was announced a day after, which is that they will agree for now to hold their horses and wait for the IMF negotiations to be done, headed by Ken Ofori-Atta and Charles Edupong. After which, well, the question is, what really happens then? Did the president really give his word that he will fire Ken Ofori-Atta and Charles Edupong, or he will get them to resign? We'll get some clarity on that, but it appears the matter is now out of the hands of the president or the majority side in the House, because the Speaker of Parliament, again, another unprecedented measure, admitted a motion of censure that will mean that Ken Ofori-Atta can now be deposed through Parliament. We'll talk to the man who has been managing this crisis in Parliament, but also with the president and trying to get his side on board with what the president wishes to happen. And then we'll talk about another major item he's dealing with, which is the MP for Domkwa-Benyansarajo-Asafo's issue, which is also now going to be a subject of parliamentary debate and possibly voting to decide her fate. Kyei-Mensah Bonsu, who is the majority leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, has his views on this pretty clear. He says that matter should be done once the Committee on Privileges is done with its work. The Speaker disagrees. He's here with me to explore these very controversial matters in some depth. Thank you very much, Mr. Kyei-Mensah Bonsu, for your time once again on PM Express.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start with the obvious question around Ken Ofori-Atta and Charles Edupong. You managed somehow, after the unprecedented step your members took at that press conference, to get them to sit with the president. They had the president, and then they agreed. The president wished for them to delay their, I guess, anger a bit until after the IMF negotiations are done. But however, subsequent to that, the Speaker of Parliament has admitted a vote of censure on the floor. His reason is that even the move to table that vote of censure alone had a positive impact on the economy. He claims that just that announcement led to the CD gaining some ground on the dollar. And so that motion has been admitted. You can see that that was a smart move by the Speaker, and I wonder if you support that.
Thank you once again. Yes, as you said, colleagues from my own ranks, came together and decided that they would vent their anger in public. I got to know on a Saturday when I had gone to the Eastern region to be part of the resource persons that the party had chosen to come and provide some orientation to the elected executives. So it was whilst there that a couple of the people, the members of parliament who had banded themselves together to raise these matters, called me to say that it was more or less confiding in me that this is what was going to happen, and invited me to come there. Perchance I'll be able to provide a sobering effect on them. So I came, saw them, realized that really they were poised for action. I spoke with them and entreated them to hold their horses until after these IMF negotiations are over, because I thought if anything happened at the time, it was going to derail the effort of government and indeed the country in negotiating with the IMF to bring some resolution to the crisis that we are facing as a nation. And subsequent to that, I said to them that the conclusions of the IMF negotiations certainly will feed into the budget that is supposed to be presented to Parliament on behalf of the President around the 15th of November. And thereafter, once the budget is presented, of course, the conclusion of the budget is the passage of the appropriations bill. So I was appealing to them that these things should be allowed to go through, and thereafter we'll see what to do. I realized that most of them were not prepared to cave in to my requests. So I had to report to the President what I had seen, which I did on Monday, when we thought that things were about calming down a bit. On Tuesday, we saw what we saw. Unfortunate as it was, I thought that the mood was not the best. But then it was a decision that had the support of so many of them. So thereafter, I had a meeting of the entire caucus. Incidentally, the caucus, the generality of the caucus, I would say 95% of them aligned with the position of the smaller group in the caucus. And so it meant that we needed to take some major action. That was Tuesday. And we ferried the sentiments to the President. The President caused the meeting of the entire caucus. Once again, we met, and he made just a similar appeal as I had made. Sometimes when these matters come from elders in the party, they carry more weight. And so I think eventually they said that they will recline to consider what the President had told them. So when we reclined, we had a caucus meeting here. We debated the issues, and I stranded them out. One, first, the conclusion of the negotiation with the IMF. After a while, we had some agreement on that. Some were saying that, well, after the event, he should leave and hand over to another person to present the budget. But eventually, that one was also acceded to. And then it was, okay, if he presented the budget, he should leave. And I appealed to them that you don't have the situation when the person who presents the budget on behalf of the President and whose name is stamped on the budget, then we'll have to exit for another person to present the appropriations bill. So eventually, after a marathon meeting with my colleagues, a 6-hour meeting, all these three proposals that I had put before them were agreed to.
So let me clarify. Did the President say categorically that I will sack him after the IMF, after the budget and the IMF is done?
The President did not say that. To quote his words, he said, let's finish with this. The IMF and the budget, right, thereafter, that we should hold on until after this.
So your understanding of that is what? Hold on, let's revisit this conversation, or?
It could be. I mean, either of them is subject to interpretation. That, okay, hold on, after the event, then we come back to discuss. Or hold on, I've heard you, after the event, I'll act.
Act, that's what was included in your statement?
Yes.
Act.
Yes.
When you said act in the statement, what did you mean? I mean, what interpretation were you putting on it?
Well, act in the context, what does it mean? It means...
Sack him, because that was a demand.
It was a demand. But I'll act may not necessarily mean that I'll do that. According to what the President told us. Right? According to what the President told us, that you hold on until. So it could be that I'll come back to consider it, or I'll give in to your demand.
Okay.
Right. So that is.
But bottom line, for clarity, and because this has been misinterpreted a bit, the President did not commit
was
to
not
sack
categorical.
him. Was not categorical that I will sack him after both the budget and the IMF.
The plea was hold on until after these events, the budget, sorry, the IMF discussions and the budget. But I even added, when there appeared to be some unclarity about what happens after the presentation of the budget, I said, no, if the budget is presented by a person, you require that same person to shepherd the appropriations. And that is how come, for avoidance of doubt, I said, let us include appropriation so that there's no doubt in anybody's mind that after the budget has been read, then agitations will start again.
But considering that your members were very clear in their demand, sack him or get him to resign, those two were very clear. With this explanation, with this clarity, and they bought into the president's appeal, and if subsequent, some of them have spoken, and the Apiakubi has spoken to us subsequent to that, and he was clear that it is their expectation that the man will go after this is done, the president can well come back and say, I just said, hold on, let's open this conversation at the end of the process. That is setting you, the president, up against your colleagues post the IMF.
We'll continue to engage, and I believe that we'll find an amicable resolution to this.
The only thing they want is the man to go.
I'm saying that we'll continue to engage. We had a cabinet retreat over 3 days. Thereafter, I had serious engagement with the president. And then tomorrow, I intend to engage my colleagues as well. I think you cannot substitute continuous engagement with any other thing. Let's continue to engage, and then we'll see what comes out. We want the best for the country.
But the best, they say, is for both gentlemen to go. Would they get that at the end of the IMF?
I don't want to preempt anything.
Okay.
Let's get there.
In fact, the president didn't promise that.
When we get to the bridge,
and it's his prerogative. So as we stand now, there's no commitment to sack him, the two gentlemen.
I haven't said so.
I mean, as for the president's side,
I'm saying
he hasn't committed to sack him.
I haven't said so. And I just want to say that I'm taking what the president said to us on face value. That is what I've stated or restated. As to what happens after December, we're not there yet. That's why I'm saying that we'll continue to engage. And I guess we want the best for government, we want the best for the party, we want the best for the country.
I've heard you in last week explain that there was, I won't say near unanimous agreement on this. There was unanimity. It was unanimous among your ranks and the majority side in Parliament on the demands that were put forward by at least the initial 80 who went public. Is that, am I reading this right?
Yes, we had a caucus. It came from a group, not the entire caucus. So we had to meet to discuss it. And when we did meet, there was, you know, I would say, congruence of opinion around what had been done.
Okay, so fundamentally, everybody agrees, Ken must go. The question is when and how.
I think you are determined to push me to the
no,
wins.
I'm just
determined to push me to the wins.
Because if you say there was unanimity, the unanimity was around what,
there was,
for example?
There was general alignment with the cause that they stood for.
And the cause was let him go.
The cause was let him go. But between now and December, a lot of water could still pass under the bridge. But that is why I keep insisting that we will do what is best for government, for country.
What's your personal view when you met? Do you agree with the principle?
I have no persona in this.
But you must have.
I'm a servant leader.
Yeah, but if there was unanimity among the ranks, it presumes that you agree with the principle that is being championed.
You don't want to you don't want to lead me on the path of unrighteousness. I've stated my position.
No, but you haven't stated your position.
I've stated the position of the caucus. I'm part of the caucus.
Okay, so exactly. So the caucus's position is that Ken Ofori-Atta and Charles Dubois must go.
That's the caucus's position.
Yes, which represents yours.
Which I ferried to the president.
But do you agree with that position?
Which I ferried to the president.
Yes, so you were the messenger.
And I'm saying that in these matters...
Did you believe in the message?
In these matters, you cease to have a persona. I hope you agree with me. Can we go on?
You don't disagree with them, though?
Can we go on with the greatest respect?
Because you don't want to commit yourself on that matter. I mean, but it's on this subject once again. With the way it's panned out now, and the unprecedented step taken by the majority side to go public, something is broken clearly. This has never happened before, and thankfully we are the best person to talk to, because in parliamentary history, you possibly and the speaker are the longest serving. You're walking encyclopedia on the Ghana's parliament. This hasn't happened before. For it to happen, something fundamentally had broken in terms of the trust between the president and his members of parliament. Somebody had pushed this too far. You agree?
Well, basically, some misunderstanding, some miscommunication, and some perceptions and misconceptions, and so on. Everything feeding into the basket. So really, you know, the amalgamation of all these factors leading to some discontent, which blew up in the way it blew up. But I think that we are in a human institution, and I guess we still be able to manage our affairs to save the country. You spoke about this being the first time. Yes, in terms of Parliament coming with a motion of censure against the finance minister, I think this is the first time, even though in the Limanic era, there was a semblance of this, where the ruling government brought a budget which was rejected by the majority group, joined by the minority parties as well. But the effort was led by the majority members of parliament. So that was against the budget that had been presented, not necessarily against the finance minister at the time. So, as I said, there was a semblance to this, but they didn't follow up with a motion of censure against the finance minister. When my colleague spoke to me about it, that is the minority leader, again I use similar reasoning that we are at a crossroad as a nation. How can we wriggle ourselves out together? The nation is in distress, let's face it. I'm talking about economically. How do we get ourselves out? And given the fact that these IMF negotiations were going on, and the fact that we're expecting the budget to come pretty soon thereafter, and the fact also that I had caused the finance minister to meet all of us, that is the sector committee chairman and ranking members, to explain to us where we are as a country. I thought we're getting some understanding of where we are and what we need to do as a nation to pull together. So I was a bit taken aback by what he did. And I tried to explain the fact that we need to be together, to bond together and band together to get ourselves out. Then he said, well, we'll continue the discussion. That was it. Yeah. The following day, he came on the floor and made a statement. So it's his right to do that.
It has been admitted now, that motion.
And has been admitted.
You agree with the decision of the Speaker to admit that motion?
Well, the admissibility of a question, a statement, a motion is the sole prerogative of the Speaker. So if the Speaker has admitted it, I cannot, run against that. But you see, we're setting new standards in this house, and it may continue tomorrow. Let's face it, the NPP is not going to be in power forever. The NDC would also assume the reins of government. And there were occasions when, we had wanted to do this against some ministers. The Right Honorable Duajaho's time. And, he called for us to resolve the matter and pleaded with me that, no, I shouldn't bring that. I mean, in the interest of the country. I called a caucus, and then we had
But this, the difference, this is in the interest of the public now. Because remember that...
What's the interest of the public? Would that be interest of the state?
No, just a second. I'm asking that based on what the majority members said at the press conference. They said when they went on recess, they spoke to their constituents. Their constituents told them unanimously that we don't want Ken there. If you take that to be true on a face value, then any action that leads to Ken Ofori-Atta leaving office, either through a vote of censure or the president sacking him, is in the ultimate interest of this country and the people that you represent.
That's precisely what I'm saying. What is supposed to be in the public interest is supposed to be in the interest of the state. Right? So I'm just saying that making a distinction between the two would really amount to a distinction without difference. So I spoke with my colleague, but then he came on the floor and the speaker says he has admitted it. I can't fault the process and the procedure. What I'm just saying is that it happened some time back, and the then minority, after the appeal from the speaker, decided not to push it. In this particular case, the speaker, it got to him and immediately he says, I've admitted it.
Yes.
In fact, on that day, when my colleague Harun Idusu raised that they were in the process of filing, one of his colleagues then interjected that we have already filed, because I asked him, if you are filing, the admissibility of the motion rests with the speaker, and if the speaker has not admitted it, you cannot speak to it on the floor. And then the colleague interjected to say that we have already filed it and that the speaker has admitted it. How come the minority leader didn't know? And then immediately we finished, I cross-checked with the table office. There was no such thing. There was no such motion with the table officers. We will come to those things. So it does appear that they transmitted it directly to the speaker, who immediately also admitted it. We are setting new standards in this house, and we should be careful. However, so he said, when I met the speaker thereafter with my colleague, he said, oh, he has caused the table officers to print it on the other paper the following day. You can't, normally these businesses come to the business committee for us to program. Again, the business committee being set aside for the speaker to direct that this should be on the other paper. That is something that is also evolving. And it's also, in my view, not the best of circumstances. We should be watchful of how Parliament is being pushed. Not the best, I must say. Now, the motion itself, I've read it, and it's a catalogue of allegations. Now, if you read, motions, impeachment proceedings could be instituted against the president. And Article, I think 69, Article 69, Clause 7, I think. You will permit me, maybe, I'll just see. I think it's Article 69, Clause 7 of the Constitution, which provides in the case of impeachment proceedings against...
But this will be for the president?
Yes, for the president, right?
But on this matter is on Article 82.
Yes, I'm saying that 67.7 says, 69.7 says, the president shall be, that is, if these proceedings are initiated, the president shall be entitled during the proceedings of the tribunal or the medical board to be heard in his defense by himself.
In fact, there's a similar provision at 82.2 that says that says that a person accused, a minister,
yes, I'm saying,
must also have the same right of.
I'm saying here it says he must be heard in his defense by himself or by a lawyer or other experts or person, as the case may be. In this case, maybe if it is medical. That's why he says other expert, as the case may be. But the president could be heard in person or by his lawyer. Now, when we get to 82, 82 just says that the person, a minister, 82.4 says, a minister of state, in respect of whom a vote of censure is debated under Clause 3 of this article, is entitled during the debate to be heard in his defense.
Yes.
So, by parity of reasoning, he could be heard in his defense by either himself or by his lawyer. If you are debating in the chamber, the lawyer cannot participate in the proceedings of the
minister
floor.
can.
The minister could. But I'm saying that, are you limiting it to himself without the participation of his lawyer?
But if the lawyer can, then the presumption is that it's only limited to the
that's
himself.
the issue that I'm raising here. This is unprecedented. So we must have a think through as to the processes and procedure.
But bottom line,
yes.
Will the majority side vote with the minority on this?
We need to engage. We have said.
Remember that you said to me that
yes.
there's unanimity among the majority side on the principle.
And then we've carried this a step further. That yes, let's wait until the conclusions of the IMF negotiations and the presentation of the budget, plus, in addition, the Appropriations Act, right? Now there's congruence on that one as well. This one appears to circumvent that, to say that, no, let's not even get there. Let's do it now.
The minister the vote could carry as early as next week.
Precisely. Let's do it now, right? So that's where the difference is. And so to ask me whether the majority will vote for the vote of censure, I have difficulties with the procedure, as I've already told you. And the second is, when we have agreed with the president to allow him to continue until after these, would you now want to recline to say that, no, we're swallowing our own words, we are doing this immediately? I think that's where the difference is.
But you concede that because vote of censure is going to be in secret,
yes,
there's a very, very high possibility that
that
vote will carry.
We are not there. We are not there. Let's get there.
No, but you're a very astute politician.
We are not there.
You know the mood in your ranks.
We'll get to the bridge. And
you know the mood in your ranks. Do you concede, though, at least on the face of this, that vote of censure opens an avenue?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge that we have to confront. And I've told you that I'm having caucus meetings tomorrow. And the caucus
meetings to try and get them not to vote?
We'll evaluate the circumstances.
In favor of the censure?
We'll re-evaluate the circumstances and move on.
But what's the purpose of the engagement that you're having? Since you've already have an agreement with the president.
Yes.
Is it on the vote of censure?
Many things.
Including the vote of censure?
Maybe where we are, re-evaluate what has happened. Has anything happened after the meeting with the president? Where do we take it? If anything different has happened after the meeting with the president, where do we go from there? If nothing has happened and we believe that agreement should hold, where do we go from there? In the phase of the vote of censure, the motion, the vote of censure that has been filed by my colleagues.
Do I take it that you're going to be lobbying your own side not to vote for the vote, not to vote when the censure comes up on the floor?
Do I need to lobby them?
Well, Aaron Idrisu has issued a 3-line whip.
We have an agreement.
Aaron Idrisu has issued a 3-line whip.
We have an agreement amongst ourselves.
That you wait.
That we wait.
Yeah, but there's a secret ballot. We saw that play out on the 7th of January, 2021.
The circumstances are different.
Well,
the circumstances are completely different.
The similarity I'm pointing out is that somebody from your side voted for Alban Bagbin. And my point to you is,
did we see the conclusion of? We didn't see the conclusion of that voting.
Okay. But again,
and I will tell you that if we had seen the conclusion of the voting, we would have seen that perhaps some people might have voted against the.
That's history now. But substantively, substantively, considering the unprecedented public disagreement on this matter, this is a vote that is likely to carry if it comes down to it because it's secret. Deep down, you know that's a more of a likelihood than that vote being defeated.
Well, I never knew that you're an apostle to St. John, who wrote Revelations. You are revealing things to me that may not be known to me. Let's get to the bridge, we cross it.
Will you be lobbying your members to vote?
Why are you using the words lobbying? I'll speak plainly to my colleagues.
Tell them what?
About what agreement we have come to.
Which is that wait till after.
Yes, that's a rehash of it. And I want to hear from them if anything has changed.
Okay.
Yes.
Your hope is that they would stick to the agreement with the president, even when the vote comes up. That
is my hope. But as I'm saying, I've been away, and these things are happening fast. I've been away since Thursday with colleagues at the cabinet retreat. So I want to listen to them if anything has changed. If anything has changed and we have to, realign, we'll see what to do. If nothing has changed and the status quo must hold, we'll see what happens.
Let me ask you, last week, Andy Apiakubi was on one of our programs. This was a program hosted by my colleague, Raymond Akwa, and he made a pronouncement that he's warning those in the party and in government who are attempting to influence. You know, he was a mouthpiece that day at the press conference. Influence his side with materialism and material things to try and change course as far as Ken Ofori-Atta is concerned, to back off. There's a suggestion there that since they went public and since you met the president, there are forces now attempting to use material promises to try and influence your members in the House.
I am not aware of that. I'm not privy to whatever inducements that people are offering. I'm not privy to that at all. As I told you, I've been away since Thursday. I've heard, though, that some businessman came here, was it the Thursday that I left? I came here Thursday early morning and left around, I think, 10 o'clock or so, to where we're having the cabinet retreat. I'm told on authority that some businessman came here and tried to do something. He's a businessman that I know. Honestly, I've not spoken with him ever since I heard that matter. And I don't want to, cite him here, but I've not spoken with him. I was told that he came here and tried to mediate in his own way what he thinks the problem is and try to...
This is a wealthy businessman, is he?
Come again?
This is a wealthy businessman, is he?
Is a wealthy businessman that people know. And so that's all that I know about it. But he was repelled by the people and he was told to not to involve himself. So he went away. So that's all that I've heard. I don't know of any other thing.
Okay. I mean, he wasn't here on the authority of Ken Ofori-Atta, was he?
I've not spoken with him, and I don't want to be presumptuous.
Okay. And the suggestion, well, and the Apiakubi was already public. I mean, he didn't go into detail, but of course, businessmen in Ghana have a reputation in these matters of using their wealth to try and influence. If that is what is something you want to look into?
Well, if that is the case, I want to talk to that man and know his motive. But I mean, people could also be indulging in speculation. So we want to hear him to see what it is. Did they come here? What did they come with? Any inducement? What was the motivation? Not having heard him, I don't want to prejudge anything.
Is he an NPP financier?
Not that I know of.
But he's known to be affiliated or has sympathies for the party?
Well, he's a businessman. I know that he deals with both sides of the political divide. Not, if you want me to pin him down to any political party, I think it will be difficult for me to do that. Because I know that, he has his own way of dealing with both sides of the political divide.
Okay. So that's on the subject of Ken Ofori-Atta and the vote of censure and the agreement they reached with the president. When we return from the break, we'll get into the other matter that is also very live, Sarah Josafo, and what may happen on the floor. Stay with me. Thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. My guest is still the majority leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. He is Kyei-Mensah Bonsu. We've talked extensively about Ken Ofori-Atta and Charles Edouboahene and the way forward. It appears it will come down to that vote of censure, possibly next week. But let's talk about another critical possible vote in the House, which will be around Sarah Adwoa-Safo, the MP for Dong-Kwabenya. Mr. Kyei-Mensah Bonsu, you had categorically argued on the floor of Parliament that as far as your reading of the Constitution is concerned on the matter like this, once the Committee on Privileges is done with its work and recommendation, plenary has no say in the matter. It simply has to now be transmitted. Again, the process is the clerk will have to inform EC of the vacancy, and then the seat in essence is declared vacant and will possibly have a by-election. The Speaker disagrees with you. The Speaker, of course, has in taking months to consider this whilst you're in recess, comes back with a ruling that says the plenary have to debate this. If it's debated, then obviously it's going to go down to a vote. What are you going to do about this now?
Well, as I indicated at the very outset, I disagree with the Speaker. And let's not forget, for this singular matter, the Speaker has issued 2 directives or rulings which in themselves are contradictory. They are conflicting. The first day that he made a referral to the committee, he indicated that the findings of the committee should be encapsulated in a report that would come to Parliament, and that Parliament plenary would not debate the report. However, plenary will vote on it. That was the first directive that I challenged, I questioned, that it has no basis in the Constitution. Then eventually he turned around to say that what he said was a guide, was meant for a guide. The Speaker sitting in the chair. Now he comes with, as we said, a very lengthy ruling and saying that the report must come to Parliament, for Parliament now to debate, even though he has said that Parliament would not debate, but now he says Parliament will debate and vote on it. Again, I disagree with him because it's inconsistent with Article 97. 97 is unambiguous, it's succinct, and it comes without any prevarication. The language is simple. It says, a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat if he is absent without permission in writing with the Speaker and is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges for 15 sittings of a meeting during any period that Parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet. Now, the first breach, being absent for 15 days, occurred. The second one was that they did not seek the written permission of the Speaker. It was on the basis of these 2 that the Speaker made a referral to the Committee on Privileges. So now the determination has to be made by the committee. It says you should go to the committee, you'll be referred to the committee. And if before the committee the person is unable to offer a reasonable explanation, then there shall be a vacancy. So where is plenary in this? And where is the Speaker's role in this? You see, the Speaker read our standing orders to say that, well, the general rule is that whatever is made to a committee, the committee must, after the investigation or inquiry, submit a report to Parliament, which is true. But the Constitution creates exceptions, and this is one of them. Indeed, Article 1771 is also another exception, where in the event of an emergency situation, the finance minister could approach the committee responsible for financial measures, that is the finance committee once again, to indulge him, to allow him to take some amount from the contingency fund. If the committee is impressed by the request and finds it reasonable, they authorize the minister to do that. That is Article 177. And Article 177, with your indulgence, let me read it. It provides that 1771, there shall be paid into the contingency fund monies voted for the purpose by Parliament, and advances may be made from that fund which are authorized by the committee responsible for financial measures in Parliament. Whenever the committee is satisfied that there has arisen an urgent or unforeseen need for expenditure for which no other provision exists to meet the need. The burden is on the committee, the finance committee, to make the approval, the determination. They authorize the finance minister to take the money from the contingency fund. Where does plenary come in? There's no role for plenary. There's no role for the speaker. So that is also another exception. Now you look at Article 106, and the speaker was trying to make a distinction between 97.1 and 177.1, which I quoted for his own elucidation the previous time. And he was trying to make a distinction. He says, oh, in 97.1, referral is made in plenary to the committee. In 177, no referral is made to the committee. The finance minister goes to the committee himself, and the committee indulges him and allows him to do that. Right? So he was trying to make that distinction. But it's a distinction without any difference. Because you go to Article 106, that is, if it has to do, I am saying that these exceptions are created by the Constitution. Now look at Article 106.13, dealing with bills and the declaration of bills, certifying them to be of urgent nature. It's a committee that does it. So 106.13 provides, where it is determined by a committee, in fact 106.2 supra would suggest to you that the processes and procedures that bills, when they come to Parliament, will have to go through. 106.13 creates an exception. It says, where it is determined by a committee of Parliament appointed for the purpose that a particular bill is of an urgent nature, the proceedings of the preceding clauses of this article shall not apply. Right? So, again, another exception is the determination is created by the committee to which the referral is made. That this is an urgent bill. And when they have made that determination, it doesn't come back to Parliament for Parliament to vote on it. The most recent example is the e-levy. When it went to the finance committee and the majority decided that it's urgent, it should be so treated. That was it. They came with a report that we have made a determination that's urgent, and so shall it be treated. Period. So that's also another exception. So for the speaker now to come in with what I consider very unfortunate interpretation of the Constitution, I think is really.
Are you going to challenge this?
Absolutely.
How?
Well, there are ways open to us, because he was interpreting the Constitution for us, which I think, with the greatest respect to the speaker, was most bizarre. So either we can go to the Supreme Court for interpretation, or maybe if we want to use the parliamentary processes, perhaps to file a motion for the speaker to set aside his own ruling. But don't forget that when you file such a motion, that visibility of that motion rests with the speaker.
Rests with him.
So if he decides not to allow it, that's the end of the journey for you. But this is a matter of the interpretation of the Constitution, and it can go to the Supreme Court.
Will you?
Well, we are exploring that possibility.
Because from the Speaker's ruling, this could come any day.
I'm saying that we are exploring the possibility.
I guess I'm asking that because time isn't on your side.
Time is on my side. If I decide, if you are saying that you are imposing this on me and I'm saying that what you are doing is unconstitutional, I will not be part of it.
This has to be programmed.
I'm saying, yes.
By your committee?
By the committee. He's not referred it to us.
Okay, not yet.
He has directed that it should be on the order paper.
Okay.
And the table officers have obliged.
Okay.
So you saw that since
so you see it and you would program it before it comes to the floor.
He has not referred it to us. The Speaker can refer matters directly to the Business Committee. But he didn't do that.
It went to the table.
He didn't do that. He directed the table officers to do that. But I'm saying, regardless of the processes and procedure, right, which I'm faulting him on, that's not the major issue. The major issue is his own interpretation of the Constitution, which I think is most unfortunate. And
which you say now will lie in the bosom of the Supreme Court if you decide to.
If you decide to do that.
But
yes. You remember he did the same thing with the to vote or not to vote. of the deputy speakers when he said that the deputy speakers are not entitled to vote.
Yes.
I disagree with him. And I
That
told him
went
that
to the
was
Supreme Court.
That went to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court ruled against the speaker's own position. Thereafter, you know, he assembled lawyers. He used Parliament's money to assemble lawyers to go and critique the decision of the Supreme Court.
But I thought that was just a forum for...
Who sponsored it? It was Parliament.
But to say that...
It was Parliament.
It was a deliberate agenda.
It was deliberate.
To critique.
It was deliberate.
How do you know that?
They took money from Parliament to do that.
Yes, but to hold a forum to discuss...
Discuss what?
The ruling.
The Supreme Court had made a ruling. I saw the private person maybe challenging it. Why do you do that? But that's another matter.
But he's a speaker. I mean, he can take
do anything.
Parliament's money to organize a forum such as that, can't he?
Really?
Did he breach any parliamentary procedure?
Oh, well, what it is that, you see, our case is a bit different. And sometimes people don't understand. You think that you are fighting the speaker. Especially in our case where we have a speaker who is not a member of Parliament. You should be very consultative with the leadership of Parliament in these matters.
At that forum, you were not consulted?
I had no idea.
Although the parliamentary service funds were used for it?
I had no idea.
You participated?
I didn't.
I see. I didn't know that it was an agenda on the speaker's part.
But that is another matter. I think that this is a monumental ruling that he has given.
Would you say you will challenge at the Supreme Court?
Yes, I'm saying that we'll find avenues to challenge it, either the Supreme Court or maybe resorting to the usual channels there. But the usual channels, you are not too safe.
You have the final say.
You have the final say. So you may just do it once and for all. Maybe take it up upstairs to see what will happen. But I don't think, you know, we should not be encouraging the courts to, as it were, be intruding into the affairs of Parliament. But if we lend ourselves by what I consider to be a very capricious ruling, then the Supreme Court will be the final arbiter.
Substantively, though, this will mean until something changes, if you indeed go to the Supreme Court, maybe secures a stay, whatever it is, as it stands now, it lies in the hands of the plenary to decide, unless your actions reverse it.
And plenary decisions are supported by at least one half.
On a subject like this?
On a subject like that.
And are you suggesting that the NPP, NDC, or your side will have the numbers to defeat it?
Well, they don't have one half to support that.
You also don't.
Why not? Okay,
so what your point is that
the majority caucus has.
This will fail if it comes down to a vote.
I want to believe. I want to believe, but I don't think we should get there. I think maybe the speaker has travelled upon his return. I think we still have some room to further discuss this matter, to see the best way for us.
But he's ruled.
To save the
been
image.
A situation where a speaker had ruled and changed his mind before?
Yes, this one he ruled and changed his mind.
So you expect him to come back to the floor and say, he
ruled and changed his mind about it. So I'm saying, let's do something to protect the image of Parliament.
Let me ask you.
And I'll support that.
This is all about Josephine. I mean, Parliament is back. It's been back for 4 days. You've sat 4 days now already.
Yes.
Has she come?
No.
I am lost for words because everything has happened before. Yeah. There's a long break. You thought in that break, at least something would have happened to get her in the house first day, to show that, because her excuse publicly when she spoke to us, I know Parliament tried to get her, you couldn't find her, but she spoke to us, is that she had, family issues. And you think that, well, now she's been relieved of her ministerial post. She had the long break that all of you were on. During the break, we know she was in town because she was seen publicly in the constituency. You think that now that Parliament has resumed...
During the break, was seen publicly in the constituency?
Oh, yeah. She came back. She came down.
Are you sure of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Are you sure what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, but Parliament is back 4 days in, and she said, do you know where she is?
I don't know.
Is she a lost case now?
Well, I don't know. The determination, in my view, has been made by the committee. That determination has been made by the committee. And my considered opinion, the determination by the committee brings a finality to to the issue. If he has to resurrect herself, we'll see.
I mean, but she still don't know why she's not coming to Parliament.
The thing is, you see, if you breach the 15-day rule,
you're beyond saving.
No.
Constitutionally.
You are not. If you appear before the committee and offer something reasonable, you'll be excused. So why did Adwoa elect not to, present herself? That's my difficulty. Because you can absent yourself 30 days, right? To the extent that you have reasonable excuse, right? My other colleague, Kojo Kum, he absented himself for more than that, for more than 15 days. But excuse, we all know he had excuse, reasonable excuse. He was indisposed, right? So who would say that it's deliberate to abandon his responsibility? So regardless of what, she ought to have come or made herself available. Because she spoke to me when on 2 occasions she did not appear and got the personal assistant to come to me to indicate to me that I should tell the committee that she was going to avail herself on a particular day by Zoom. And I said she should speak to the committee herself. She didn't. But I spoke to the chair that this is the arrangement. Plus the word from the personal assistant. The day came and nothing.
No waiting for the Zoom call, I remember that.
And from then on, if anything had inhibited her to have even called again to say that, oh, I assured that I would do this. Unfortunately, these things inhibited me. I couldn't avail myself. Can you arrange again? From then on up to this time, no. She's not spoken to me. I've sent several chats, she's not responded. So, well, what else can I do?
Very finally, back to where we started on the economy. The president has spoken on Sunday. You are the retreat. I know you also sit in cabinet. And you also have constituents directly. Do you really have any idea when this crisis may begin to ease?
Well, a lot depends on what will go into the IMF discussions and the conclusions that will ensue therefrom, which conclusions will be factored into the budget. And I think that if we get it right, it will really inspire confidence. The budget is expected to be here with us by the PFMA, the Public Financial Management Act. It's supposed to come on or before the 15th of November.
Do you expect that timeline to be adhered to, or you expect, based on everything you've heard in cabinet and the retreat, will it be extended?
I don't really know what, but if you want to do a very tidy job, the IMF official will be coming. I think they are coming this week. And they will be engaging the finance ministry extensively. And thereafter, you have to look at what will go into the budget and the implications on the allocation of resources to the various sectors, ministry departments and agencies, and what savings to make to shore up the currency and so on and so forth. I'm not too sure that 2 weeks will be enough. That is speaking for myself. And so I think that it may go beyond the 15th. I just think that it may go beyond the 15th. If it does, to the extent that it doesn't go beyond 30th November, we'll still be within the constitutional provisions. The constitution provides that it should come to Parliament not later than 1 month before the expiry of the financial year, which means November 30th. But the Public Financial Management Act brought it forward and then suggested that we should have at least 6 weeks, because we need time to interrogate the principles and policies underpinning the budget, then also scrutinize the allocations to see that they match government's own priorities and also government's own programs. How do they fit into the constitutional imperatives as captured in the directive principle of state policy of the coordinated economic and social policies of government itself? Also international conventions like the SDGs and so on and so forth. How are they, coming together to lift the people up and then offer us hope, real development for the nation, and also development for the citizens. So, and normally you require many more weeks. The IPU, the Inter-Parliamentary Union, to which we belong, insists that we should be working towards a minimum period of 8 weeks. So the 4 weeks certainly is not ideal. But given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, I think that it will be difficult to do it on or before the 15th. The 15th is just 2 weeks from tomorrow.
True.
Yes, and I think it's going to be difficult.
Okay.
I've not really exhausted it with the finance minister, so I'm not in a position to tell. I'm just thinking aloud that after all these discussions and negotiations, to say that maybe 3-4 days after the first round of negotiations close, we should have the budget, I think it would be a tough call.
That's Kyei-Mensah Bonsu. He is the majority leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. A lot he said, a lot about the economy and what might happen to Ken Ofori-Atta. It's very, very possible that this budget that he will read possibly in November may be his last. Well, that's if the president keeps his word to them. Well, remember that the
That's your
president's
conclusion.
well, I mean, I'm saying that, but if the president's word, remember, he's clarified. The president said, let's revisit this conversation at the end. And so, well, that it's subject to a lot of interpretation he himself had said. So I guess nobody knows. Time will tell. Enjoy the rest of your evening.